So the Bloodline all come out, they're in the ring, and Jay goes to put a lay onto Sami Zayn when Reigns stops him. And the Usos then continue to stomp on Owens, and they barely get this guy all the way up for a 1D, and they put the chair around his neck. And Cole brings up how Riddle has been out for months since this, as Solo hits the hip attack into the chair around Owens' neck. Then they get handcuffs, and they handcuff Owens up against the top rope, and they just super kick him over and over and over again as Sami is watching his best friend just get destroyed in front of him. There's more chance of Sami, and Reigns has the chair, and he's going to end it all when Sami stands in front of Owens, and everyone cheers on Sami that he's finally standing up for Kevin Owens, and Sami's trying to talk Reigns out of it, stating, "He's done. You're beneath this." So Reigns thinks about it, and then he hands the weapon to Sami Zayn. He's going to carry out the hit. You are going to do it. And Zayn is so conflicted. He doesn't know what to do. In the back, you've got Heyman yelling, "Shmooly, this is your moment." And Reigns pleads to him, "Owens doesn't care about you. He's an anchor." And that Reigns loves Sami. "You were doing jackass shit before me." And then says, "Pull the trigger." And then he sees weakness. He goes to Paul. He's crying. He's crying. And he starts pie-facing Sami. He screams in his face. And then he turns around, and Sami Zayn winds up, and he nails Roman in the back. Dude, this place explodes. It was the most feel-good pop it was like all this work, and they got this giant reaction for what it was all built towards. It was tremendous.
It was a tremendous release. Absolutely.
And from there, Jimmy just looks at Jay and says, "Is this your brother?" "No, I'm your brother." And super kicks Sami, and Jimmy and Solo end up beating the hell out of Sami Zayn. The Samoan spike is hit, but we see Jay, who is just standing there, and he is not taking part in this beatdown of Sami Zayn. And Jay finally makes a move, and he leaves the ring. He is in tears as Roman is just stunned at this, and he attacks Sami with the chair, yelling that "you broke my family," and just hits him with shot after shot. He's nailing him with punches, and he rips off the honorary Uso shirt, and the whole place is chanting, "Fuck you, Roman." Tons of heat for this angle, and the visual at the end, he's just pulling out from the lay, and we've got like these rose petals over top of them as Owens is handcuffed to the rope. Sami is dead in the middle, and this is the image to end the show with. This was beautiful. It was a phenomenal angle. It got everything you could have wanted out of this, and like it felt like, wow, we're cruising for like the biggest WrestleMania of like homegrown talent of regular roster members possible with this incredible angle. But you've also got to get to Roman and Cody in this whole thing as well. So how they navigate all this will be interesting. But from a just physical standpoint, like Kevin Owens wrestling in 3 weeks on this pay-per-view seems kind of like he almost shouldn't be on this pay-per-view in Montreal, given the beatdown that this was.
Perhaps, but he can go into the match injured, you know?
Well, he'll definitely have to do that. But I thought this was one of the great angles in WWE history. I just thought everyone nailed it, and this is what this show is going to be remembered for, and I think what most will grade this show based upon is this angle.
Mm. I watch a lot of wrestling, John, and I have seen a lot of wrestling. I am 38 years old. I'm now a father. I don't really cry for anything these days, especially professional wrestling that is scripted and not based in, a real life tragedy, for instance. I fucking cried after this angle, during this angle, especially like it wasn't so much the moment when like Sami Zayn turned on Roman Reigns. That was great, but it was the camera cutting back to the Usos' reaction. And the reaction of both Usos was not immediately anger, like you would normally see, whenever one of these swerves happen. It was heartbreak, they were both crying. They were both disappointed. They believed in this guy. They put their backs out.
It was like 6 months ago. Jay wanted this. Jay wanted this guy destroyed and away as far as possible. And here, Sami won him over.
They fully embraced this guy, and they loved him as a brother. And this was akin to your brother turning on your family and choosing somebody else but your family. It was so emotionally gripping. I knew I loved this angle. I knew I loved the storyline. I didn't know that they could take me, you know, this jaded professional wrestling podcaster, to this level of emotion that I honestly, I don't know if I even really felt as a child. It was scripted perfectly. It was built perfectly. I mean, we've seen, you know, Paul Heyman design many handcuffed crucifix type of angle. And, I wasn't there for a lot of the ECW ones, but I have to imagine this was among maybe the most successful, if he did indeed have a hand in it, which I'm assuming he and, plenty of other people who have been leading the way with this entire angle have brilliantly
I would
done.
imagine Paul leaning on like the religious backdrop. The visual of Owens was probably like a touch in there to think about.
But, it's Roman's look of disappointment and sadness and the incredible performance Roman Reigns gave in just like continuing to heat Sami Zayn up before you finally wanted to see this guy pull it off. And I mean, they had me going. I didn't know if he was going to turn, tonight. They could have delayed this for another month or so and whatever. But Sami Zayn did it tonight, and the results were unforgettable. Like, this was truly masterful professional wrestling storytelling, the likes of which I haven't seen in a very, very long time. I can't say enough great things about this.
Yeah, it was riveting, and it really does bring up the question of like where you go, because the next show is in Montreal's in 3 weeks, and I don't think you can get to like and I don't think people were necessarily expecting like the Usos match there. But also like the question of like what you do here. Like, do you do Roman and Sami in Montreal?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Part of me feels like, I would almost be disappointed, because where do you go after that? There has to be an ultimate destination here.
I feel that ultimately it is, you could have, it's like Roman and Sami in
Look
Montreal.
At this image. Look at this still image.
It was tremendous.
This is out of a comic book. And professional wrestlers who are not trained actors were able to pull this off to create this beautiful image. It's a comic book splash page. Look at this. Anyway,
I would go Roman and Sami in Montreal, and that's where Jay, he has to, make his allegiance known. Like, which it's almost like this, he is now in the Sami Zayn role, and if it's with Roman, it's like the beatdown at the end, and that's Kevin Owens' return at the end. Montreal gets Owens showing up at the end to save Sami, and the final scene at Elimination Chamber is Sami and Owens hugging in the middle, and they are going for the Usos tag titles because they tried to destroy us, and now we are closer than ever.
That would be a lovely way to close off that particular show. I mean, right now, the possibilities, I think, are an embarrassment of riches. And that includes attaching Cody. I mean, I feel Cody can make his way into the storyline in an organic fashion.
Like, Roman keeps the title from Zayn with, like, whether it's Jay's help, but the big feel-good moment is Owens and Zayn reunited at the end of Elimination Chamber. Reigns goes off with Cody, and then Owens and Zayn are with the Usos for WrestleMania. And I think that is the best way to go with this. And I think Reigns and Zayn is the direction that should be the direction for Montreal.
Sure. I just, you see a result like this, and I think they have a lot more mileage than just WrestleMania. In this Bloodline versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens story. I think they can go to SummerSlam, possibly even beyond, if they play their cards right. Like, I know Sami Zayn has said what he said about, like getting a token title win, perhaps, but not being the face of a company. But even for that token title win, if that's his ceiling, they could build that up to be huge later on. So I wouldn't extinguish this, in the next 2 months. I think there's way more life left in it beyond that.